with everyone. And so, as mentioned, Shannon Mullins is with us. She's the Chief Revenue Officer from Accelerant. She's also an MVP of Microsoft, and I'm just real excited to be here with her. She is going to go over some of the introductory with Teams. So welcome, Shannon, and I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, excited to be here today to talk about one of my favorite topics in the Microsoft space, Microsoft Teams. And so this is a very introductory course. We're going to get into a little bit of advanced settings that you guys can do with Microsoft Teams. There's quite a lot of capabilities and not enough to talk about in 40 minutes. So some of the stuff I'll have to power through, but I have some contact information after the presentation. If you want to reach out, you have questions or would like a copy of the deck, I can send that over as well. So very excited to be here. I actually live here in Nashville. I'm here in Franklin, Tennessee. I've been working in Franklin, Kentucky a lot lately. I am an MVP of business applications. I started working with Teams back when Microsoft actually switched it over from Skype. And most of the time I'm actually working in Dynamics 365 in that space of business applications with the ERP and CRM systems. But Teams actually has a huge role in that. And I'll talk through that as we go through samples of why to use Teams and how Teams can kind of change your life with your organization. But this is my contact information. If you guys want to reach out to me, and I'll have this on the last slide as well. You can kind of follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter, and pretty active in the Microsoft community. So ideas on how to use Teams within your organization. So I'll do a little bit of introduction just to kind of let you know where Teams is. How does Teams fall within the realm of Microsoft? And then where does it fall within SharePoint and OneDrive? I get a lot of questions on how do we differentiate Teams from SharePoint, from OneDrive, from things that we're already using within the Microsoft space. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about how to get started with Teams. So some of the basic navigation, what's available, what you can do with it. And we'll talk through some ideas there. And then I have some ideas to how to take this to an organization. So if you're an IT leader, an accounting leader, whatever your role is in the company, there's a lot of different ideas of how you can use Teams within an organization and kind of group those together for collaboration. And then at the end, we'll just talk a little bit, very tiny bit about apps and licensing. There's a lot of different apps you can connect into Teams. And then we'll talk about what licenses do you need to use Teams, because it is not traditionally free for companies. There is a free app for personal use now, but it is not free for companies. So what license do you need to get to use Teams within your organization? So a little bit of intro to Teams. What is Teams? Originally, I think Microsoft's idea for Teams was just going to be, it was going to be a replacement for Skype. So Skype for Business was very popular. It was where people were chatting and having meetings online. Skype really had difficulty in getting acceptance and really just companies to use it, because I don't know if anyone was a former Skype user. It was very, very annoying, that interface, and just so many issues with having meetings. And I was not a huge Skype fan, to be honest with you, when it was back there. So when Microsoft started envisioning Teams, they actually envisioned it as more of a collaboration platform rather than just a meeting and chat. And I'm sure with like the modern workplace and everyone working remote, there's a lot of like meetings you've been in, and maybe it's a Zoom meeting like this one, maybe it's a go-to meeting, maybe it's a Microsoft Teams meeting. Of course, it's a meeting platform, but it's got so many more capabilities, and we're going to talk through those today. So it's a great way for teams to collaborate, because not only can we collaborate with video and we can collaborate with chat, we can also collaborate with files, with polls, with our different applications we're using. And that's where Teams comes in and kind of makes it stand out in industry for what you can actually do with it. So just some of the features here, obviously online meetings, we all know you can have an online meeting with Teams. You can make calling, you can call. There are video and audio plans for Teams if you want to make local calls, if you want to make US calls, if you want to make international calls. There's calling plans that you can buy and hook up to your Teams. And because Teams has a mobile an app on there, you can also make phone calls via Teams. And we've had a lot of folks actually replace their In fact, our office, we don't have any office phones. We actually just use Teams for everything. So Teams can actually be a total replacement for your phone system as well. Of course, video conferencing like we're doing now, screen sharing where you can screen share and show someone something. I just threw this in here for fun. It's been a great way for people to show off their pets and kids during COVID. You know, sometimes you want to see them and sometimes you don't, but they're in the background there. File sharing and document management. We're going to get a lot into that and how you can use Teams for collaboration on documents and file sharing. Obviously we got custom backgrounds we can use now, which is pretty cool. You can, you know, white out your background so no one sees your kids and dogs. We've got instant messaging, audio conferencing, so that chatting, and we'll talk about that in a second. A lot of mobile features and functionality. I use Teams a lot, even to view files on my mobile device. So if someone sends me a link and they're like, hey, can you look at this in Teams? I'm on my mobile device, I'm on the go, I can actually just click on that link and get directly to those files on my mobile device. So a lot of mobile features and functionality. And then one of my favorites, you can use it to annoy your coworkers where they're not responding to your emails. Teams is really great to bug everyone in the organization and try to get them to do their job. Not that I would use that, but I use that power when I can. Any questions about that so far, about what Teams can and can't do? Okay, so how does Microsoft Teams fit into the whole structure of SharePoint and OneDrive? And if you guys are not familiar, SharePoint has been around for a long, long time. SharePoint is a way to store files and collaborate on files. It's been around with Microsoft. It had an on-prem version and now has a cloud version. And really it's meant to be a collaboration of files and document sharing within your organization. You can also set up team sites that have, you know, corporate news and a corporate calendar and videos and photos and all kinds of stuff. But SharePoint really was made to be kind of that document storage center with a lot of other cool features in it. And then we have OneDrive, which is where we can also store files, but maybe those are just our individual files. So I have my local desktop and downloads folders. I want to sync those to OneDrive. So no matter what computer I'm on, if everything's in OneDrive, it's in the cloud and I can see it across the board. So that's where OneDrive comes into place. So where does Teams fall into that picture? Well, the interesting thing about Teams is when you create a team, and this is not having a meeting, this is actually creating a team, which we'll talk about in a minute. A team actually creates a SharePoint folder. And that SharePoint folder can be opened up in OneDrive, in Teams, or in SharePoint. It's very interesting. So I like to think about this as one universal Microsoft world where I can say, when I create a team, I want to automatically store all those files to the cloud. So it's going to automatically create a SharePoint site so that those files can be used in the cloud in SharePoint, or I can view them inside Teams. And then I also can take those same Teams and SharePoint sites and I can sync them to OneDrive. And I'll show you that in just a minute, how you can do that. But they are all interrelated. So it's very interesting. It gets a little confusing when we're doing Teams training and we're saying, you can sync this to SharePoint. Well, it already is a SharePoint site. You can sync this to OneDrive with a little sync button, and then you can see these files in your OneDrive, no matter what computer you're on. All one world, all different names. So it's a very interesting little circle that Microsoft's built. So why is Teams great with collaboration? Well, when you're collaborating in real time, you're actually looking at documents that everybody's on. So if you open a document inside Microsoft Teams, okay, so you open it from Teams, you and your team member are both looking at the same Word document, whether you're showing it inside the Teams window itself or you tell it to open it in the desktop app, you and your coworker are actually looking at the very same version of the document and you're both editing it in real time. So it's really great. I actually have stuck to a policy with my team that do not send me any down attachments to work on. You know, when your coworkers send you a document and they're like, hey, I need everyone to work on this and put their comments in. And then what happens? Bob makes comments, he sends it back. Jewel makes comments, she sends this back. And then everyone has to go and like finish all those edits and put them into one copy. That's a horrible way to waste your time. So if you send a link and say, hey, open this up in Teams and make your edits, whoever makes the edits, they're making it real time and they're seeing each other work in the document. And so everyone's working together and collaborating. It's so much better to do it this way because now you have all your version in the same file. Everyone's working together and we're not sending different threads. The other nice thing is you can actually make comments and you can call people out. So you can use the @ symbol like you would in an email address, and you can say, you know, @ Bob, please look at this. @ Jill, please look at this. And you can actually make those comments. They actually will get a tag in their email saying, hey, you know, can you look at this? And they will be able to go link back to that Word document and go see the changes that you're making. So collaboration is huge. Communication, obviously we have chat, which we'll talk about in a minute. You can chat within a team, you can chat with individuals, you can chat within meetings. So a lot of chat features and communication issues. Something else that's really nice about Teams, and this is like one of the huge selling features, it's actually available public or private. Private meaning for your organization, public meaning you can actually share some of your Teams folders with people outside your organization. So maybe you've had this happen in the past. You're invited to a Teams channel to, you know, collaborate, and you go in and you're actually in someone else's organization looking at their documents. Well, they've shared that folder externally with you. However, the membership is managed inside that private team. So it's a pretty nice way to collaborate cross organization and share those files as well. So getting started with Teams. So first thing you're going to want to do is you're actually going to want to make sure you have licensing, and we'll talk about licensing at the very end and what license you have to have. But if you've never logged into Teams before, you do have to have a license for it. You can download Teams. So if you go to microsoftteams.com, download Microsoft Teams, you'll actually click and log into Microsoft Teams. You always log into Teams with your Office 365 username and password, your email. That's what we call single sign-on. If you're using the free version of Teams, so there is a personal free version of Teams, you'll actually create a Microsoft login for that. And that will be your own personal login that you created with Microsoft to use it. So signing on, pretty easy. You're just going to use that authentication that you do with your organization or that you personally set up. So picking a team and a channel. So we'd like to think of Teams as a collection of people, conversations, files, and tools. So they're all in one place. And I'll just show you that real quick, what that looks like visually within my Teams. And so within here, I have just set up a demo team for this presentation. And within here, we have our accounting team for demo BC. And then underneath here, we're going to have some files. So within the files, we can actually have different what we call channels. So this is our main account structure, and this general folder is like our main landing launching page for this folder. However, inside this same team, we can have what we call different channels. And so to do that, I actually just clicked on these 3 ellipses and clicked on add channel. And if I just want to do a test channel just for this demo, I can do that. I can set the privacy of who has access to the channel. This is a pretty nice feature of Teams. You can have one big team, but within that team, you can actually say only certain members of that team can see this one channel. So for everybody else, it will be hidden. For those members, they would be able to see it. So you can kind of segregate off and add some security within your actual team. And within that channel, we actually get a new channel down here. Within there, we have our different tabs up here, including a new chat conversation and a new file structure that's automatically created. So it's pretty nice to have the channels, because channels are another way to organize rather than create, like, I could have created a separate team for accounts payable, accounts receivable, budgets, executive. I could have created a whole bunch of teams, but instead I create one team that allows the whole accounting team in, and then everyone can only see the channels that I've assigned them to, or they can see all channels. So it's a pretty nice little feature. Some of you are probably asking, well, how did you even create the team, right? You created this team. I have a demo team. I always use it. When you first log into Teams, if you have no team and you're just starting off from scratch, if you click on join or create a team down here in the bottom, this is actually how you create a team. And you have some different options here, but this is our personal internal one. But these two here, create a team or join a team with a code, and create a team. You can actually click on that and we'll ask you, do you want to create a team from scratch, or do you want to create a team from a group or a team? And then they've now added with Microsoft some features where you can actually select a team template. So maybe I want a help desk template. Maybe I want an incident response, manage a store. There's a whole bunch of different options down here. But if I just click from scratch, it'll ask me, what is my security level going to be if I need to make this security? And is this going to be private or public? And so if I make it public, I can just go ahead and create this. If I make it private, I do have to select who's going to be in that team. And now I'm going to go ahead and create the team. So just as easy as that of going through those steps, I now have a team, and I can actually come down here and I can see my team here. It's fresh and blank. Nothing's going on with it. But I've actually created a team. Now, keep in mind, we talked about SharePoint. When I actually create this team, it's actually creating a SharePoint file or a SharePoint site. So if I click on General here and I go to Files, it will actually have some options up here at the top with my file storage. And two, you'll notice here are sync, which actually can sync this down to your OneDrive in your computer. And then we also have open in SharePoint. So if I click open in SharePoint, it's actually going to take me to the newly created SharePoint site. Pretty nice. I can design my site. I can use this site, or I can just choose to have it as a sync for my folders. A lot of people who are using Teams don't necessarily do anything to their SharePoint site, but now they know those documents are actually being saved up to SharePoint automatically. So when I say it's connected to SharePoint, that's the way it will be connected. And when your users that are external log in, they're actually directed to a SharePoint site where they're seeing those folders. You as a team and an organization, when you're using it internally, you're going to have a lot more features, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But that's how you create a team. Adding team members, if you didn't add them at the beginning, you can come back here to those three little ellipses and you can click on manage team or add a member, whatever route you want to go. Manage team has a lot of settings in here. This is where I can add members. I can also change people who are owners. So if I have a bunch of members in here and I want to make someone else the owner of the team, I can do that. Owners are people who can make changes to the team settings. They are people who can, add other team members. That would be an owner. A member is just a person who is logging in and viewing everything that's in the team. So that's the difference between the two. And then you have your add member box here. You can see your channels here. So you can see all the channels that are created under here. You also have some dots here with the three little settings where you can manage those channels as well, or get a link to the channels. There's not a whole lot of settings with channel settings. This is really kind of all you get, but just so you know, you can change a few things on those channel settings. It's going to let me go back. It's pretty annoying. One other thing I just wanted to mention on here, one thing I like to do, if you go under settings, under manage your team, you can add a team picture. So maybe like a little logo or a fun little emoji, makes it kind of nice. You'll notice here, Teams out of the box just names things with like the first two letters. It's kind of nice to create your own little picture for it. You can change member permissions. You can change guest permissions. You can change who can use the @ mentions. Remember, I was mentioning earlier, you can do an @ in someone's name and mention someone directly in chat. You can change that. You can change whether you allow emoji, memes, GIF, stickers, and then manage who can actually manage the tags. So a few things in here that you can change as a team administrator. So that's kind of the getting started on just creating a team. Starting a conversation. So if you want to start a conversation, you can either start a conversation with a coworker or you can start a conversation within a team, and you can choose how you want to do that. So if you are starting a conversation with a team, so if this is my new team and I wanted to start a conversation, I would just come back down here to my general channel and I would click on new conversation. And within here, I can I can do a message to my team. And I have some little options I have down here, just like I would with any other message. And so in here, maybe I want to put an emoji in here. I can do that as well. I can hit the send button and that will actually send a message to the whole team. So now anyone who's logged into this team and sees the conversation, they'll actually see this message. Now you notice Teams is still prompting me because they're like, you're really just emailing yourself or messaging yourself because you don't have anyone on your team. So it's still asking me, do I want to add more people? Because it doesn't think that my team is ready to go. Okay. If I come back up here to my demo team, you'll notice that I have a whole bunch of history in here because I've added members to this team. And I can, go through and again, start a new conversation in here and go from there. When you're going to mention someone, I just want to show you guys with that @ symbol. You can actually just start typing in like someone's email address or you can start typing in their name, and it will start proactively looking through your organization for somebody. And so there's nobody in this team right now that's in my organization, so I'm not finding anyone. But if I go into a chat itself and I just want to, I'll just go into like a chat message, I could do an @ and I can see everybody who's in the meeting here. So it's pretty cool. I can go back and forth between that and this, depending on who's in the conversation here will depend who I can @. But if I'm in a regular chat, I could @ anybody who's in that chat itself. So there's some cool tips and tricks that you can do there with, you know, calling people out. Hey, so-and-so, go look at that. You will notice in here, I can also send links. So if I want to send a link to someone, hey, go look at that, I can put that in the conversation. I do have some Power BI references in here. So I actually can share some Power BI reports in here, and I'll show you that in a second. Some of the business applications like Dynamics also have built-in apps for Teams, which is how I'm sharing this data, the customer contact card. And then I also can assign new tasks to people. So there's a lot of things that I can do. And as I do them and add them to my team, everybody in the conversation will actually get a little note letting them know that there's something new posted in that team. So it's pretty nice. You don't have to go and say, hey, I posted this in the team and send everyone an email. If they're in the team, they're going to get an automatic notification saying, hey, Shannon created a new tab called customer list. Go check it out. And there's a link to it and they can go join it. So there's some cool stuff that you guys can do there. You can also start a meeting. So if you're going into your meeting section, that's usually all going to be underneath calendar over here, and you can actually see your calendar here, but you can click on new meeting. And this is where you can actually start a new meeting, and you can add a new meeting from here. If you guys have Teams turned on in your organization, when you create a new meeting in a calendar in Outlook, it will actually automatically assign it to a Teams meeting, or you can come in here into Teams and you can create a new meeting from here. So you have those two different options. You also can just click on Meet Now. So you have those options there as well, where you guys can actually just go in and start a meeting right from there. So it's pretty cool. You can make video and audio calls. So if you click on those two little links up there, the video camera or the call, if you're on a chat with a coworker and you just want to call them quickly, you can click on one of those two icons. The video one will actually start a video conference with your coworker. The one with the phone call will actually just call them directly on their phone line. So you have those two different options. It'll reach out to them. They'll get a little message letting them know someone's calling them, and then they can answer it right then. So you don't have to pick up your actual physical phone and call them. You can actually call them via Teams, which is really nice. Within your conversations, you can actually reply to someone. So within a message, you can actually click on the three little dots and click reply, and you can type in, you know, hey, so-and-so, look at this. And that reply will actually take them and have them go in and be able to see, you know, that message that you're actually replying to them. And that's really nice when you have a big group chat and you guys are replying to each other. It's just like you do on a text message. If you hold it down and click reply, then you can say, oh, so-and-so, I'm replying to this particular string in this message, not the whole message and not to everybody. We mentioned doing the @. If you want to mention someone within your organization, you just use the @ symbol, and anybody in your team or organization, you can ping and they can actually look at what you're actually referencing here. And then you, of course, you have those emojis, those memes, those GIFs. So you guys can go and use those, you know, to add a little fun and add a little flavor to your teams and your team's conversations. I'll just stop right there real quick on those settings that I've shown so far. Does anyone have any questions?
I have one, but are you going to wait to the end for your questions? Let you get through your presentation?
Sure, that's fine. We can wait till the end too if you want to wait. No worries. All right, staying on top of things, you guys will see in Teams, you do have this little activity button here. On the activity button, that's actually going to show you if anyone adds you to a team, anyone calls you out. And so if you use that @ symbol, you'll actually see that activity button highlight red, and you'll be able to click on that activity button, see if anyone added you, anyone called you out, anyone mentioned you. That's where you're going to see that in the activity. So that's a really easy way for you to be able to see that. Adding a tab in a channel. So if you are in a channel and you want to add a tab at the top, I'll show you how to do that. So we've created our team here, and you will notice up here at the top, I have several what we call tabs. So I'm in this channel, and then up here at the very top of the channel, I have multiple tabs. And if I click on 4 more, you can see some of the stuff that I've added here. I'm going to go in my task list and go ahead and open up that and just show you what that looks like. So this is the functionality that your external users are not going to be able to see, but your internal team will be able to see, which is these tabs that you're adding into your actual team. So when you add it within your internal team, you can actually assign tasks to users and create maybe a to-do list. You can pull out data. Maybe you're pulling out data from a database. So in this case, I'm pulling it from Dynamics 365 Business Central. And I actually can just pull in my data right here and view like my test customer data here inside my teams. And how I did that was I can actually connected the website for the app into Teams. You can do this with any website. So if you have a website that has like a list and there's a URL that takes you directly to that list, you can actually add it here in Teams. And that's how I did this with Dynamics 365, is I actually just went out and got the URL, and then I added it as a tab to the top. So if I go back to the plus sign up here, I can see all the different tab options that I have. And this used to be a very small list. I'll tell you now it's humongous with all the apps, and we'll talk about apps here in a second. But apps are really another way that you can kind of just enhance Teams. You guys will probably see some names on here that look familiar, like Power BI, PowerPoint, forms, different things like that. But there's a whole bunch of different things that you can add actually to a tab. Website is where I actually linked that customer list. I actually just went out there and grabbed the website, named the tab, and put the website URL in there, and it hooks it all up. But you can do things like OneNote. You can create checklists with tasks. You can do Smartsheet if you guys are maybe using Smartsheet in your organization. So there's a lot of different tabs that you can add in here. And once you add it, it will actually add it to the top of the browser. Some of them have some options that you have to go through before you save it. And then when it's done, it will actually show up right here. So I just use the Microsoft Lists app. And from here, I can actually just create a list. And once I've added this to my tab, everyone in the organization can actually come out into these different tabs and see all this data. That's pretty cool. So these are just some different options that you guys have here, to make your lives a lot easier. Within mine, I do this a lot of demos for Dynamics 365, but I've added some Power BI reports, an open sales order list. I have tasks for my team. I have a customer list. And so anything you can add to here that your group goes out and looks at a lot, usually you can add it into the tab, and then they can actually just work and collaborate here in Teams rather than go all over the place to get this data. So it makes it really nice. On the file structure side, this is where we can come in and we can have different folders, just like we would in a file explorer. And within those folders, we can create different folders within here and different folder structures. So you can create folders with subfolders, just like you would in a regular file explorer. You can also create new documents from here from the Microsoft stack. So new PowerPoint presentation, Excel, Word. One thing to note, sometimes these things will look a little funky inside of Teams. And it'll look like it's a little bit off. I don't really like working on my Word documents, my PowerPoints, those kind of apps inside of Teams. I like to open them in the desktop app. And you can always do that by clicking this little button up here at the top called Open in Desktop App. And it will say, we're now going to pull you open and open this up in a new app. Now, when you're opening this, I just want to mention two things. If you ever open a file from Teams or SharePoint in the desktop app, you're going to have two things that you want to look at up here. Number one is autosave. You'll see this file with the two arrows. That's automatically syncing any changes you make here back into SharePoint or Teams. And then over here in the far right corner, far right corner where you see my little name, if someone else is working in here, you actually will start seeing their little two-digit or initial circle. So if Bob was in here, I could see Bob's little circle in here. And if we're working on the document together, it will actually show me where Bob is in the document and what he's changing. I can actually see him changing the document real time. So it's pretty cool that you can actually like collaborate together, see that together. You're still working in the Teams document, but you're not working on it in Teams. You're actually working on it in the desktop app, which gives you a little bit more options. So just keep in mind, you don't have to open everything in Teams. You can always open it in the desktop app, sync it back, and then everyone's still seeing the same version. This is new to PowerPoint, by the way. If you're doing PowerPoint presentations and you want to present in Teams, you actually can open it up and just click on present in Teams, and it will actually present this in your Teams meeting if you're on a Teams meeting. And it will show like the deck and everything. So it's pretty cool. That's a new little button that they added to there. So definitely use tabs. You can be a little creative there. I've had a lot of people, when I've done this training, they've gone back and just created all kinds of stuff in their teams. It's really kind of cool how you can be creative and kind of share documents within your organization. You can share files. You can share files within any chat within a team. You can also share files in chats that you're having with your team members. So it just depends on where you're at on where you want to share a file. If I go back to my general chat here, go back to new conversation. If I'm in a conversation, I'll see this little share button down here. And you'll notice in here, I have some different options. I can browse different teams and channels for a document that's already been saved inside a team or a channel. I can look at my local OneDrive and I can share documents from there, or I can just upload from my computer. So you have those different options there. So it's pretty cool. You can share in a lot of different ways within that. And you can also do that if you're in a meeting. If you're in a meeting and you go to the meeting chat, you'll actually see those options as well, where you can kind of share those documents. Working with files, if you're on the files, you can actually go into the files section here and you can view all files within your organization, and you can see your recent files. You can always right click on a file and you have some different options there as well, like open in SharePoint, move the file, copy the file, download the file, rename it, get a link to the file. Link is really important. If you're on a file somewhere within Teams, there's actually going to be 3 little dots in there. I'll show you that real quick, where you can actually go in and you can create a link or copy a link to this folder. So if you copy it, anyone that has access to this particular team will be able to see that, and you can copy it and you can actually share it over. Or you can change the permissions and say, if your organization allows it, anyone with this link can click on it. People in my organization can click on it, or specific people can click on it. Now you notice mine's grayed out on anyone with a link. That's because our organization prevents us from sharing links with people who are not in the team. And so you have your corporate policies of security that may be managing this. But once I do that and I hit apply, I can actually copy this link, put it in a chat, put it in an email, and send it to a coworker. When they click on it, they'll be directed directly into this file. So a lot of different options that you guys can do there with files. Again, I always recommend sending things as links, and then your coworkers can click on it. You guys are all working on the same version. It drives me crazy now when people download files and send it via email, because it's very difficult to keep on track of who made what changes and who didn't. You do have a search box. It's really nice. Just like SharePoint, you can actually search at the top of Teams. So you have your search box up here and you can actually search for people, you can search for files, and that will actually narrow down your results and search for whatever's in your team structure. So it will search through all your teams, your team chat, people in your organization. It searches the whole gamut and it goes to find people. So that search is really nice. Use it to kind of find things a lot quicker than going through and navigating through each thing. Finding your personal apps. So you can add or install apps at any time. Apps are going to be not only the Microsoft apps, but those are also going to be other apps that maybe you use. And you're going to find apps down here in the bottom left corner. You'll see apps here. There are, I don't even know how many apps now for Teams. I can't keep track with Microsoft. It's constantly changing, but there's a ton of apps with Teams now. So it's not just the Microsoft stack. You're going to see a lot of different apps or, popular things that people are using, like Smartsheet or Zello or, the sky's kind of the limit. There's just so many different apps now that you can that you can buy and use. So you can come in here and you can kind of browse like popular across teams. What are a lot of people using? And you can see some of the apps that people are using here. There's a YouTube app. There's a Trello app. There's Microsoft approvals. There's Jira for people who use Jira. So there's a lot of different apps out here. And so you can either go through these lists and just kind of see what the options are, or you can go to like top picks and see what the top things people are using and kind of read about them. Or you can actually just come out here and search and see if any of the apps your organization are using are out here, and then you can add them. I don't know the limit or the number of apps, but I'm guessing it's over 5,000 apps now that work with Microsoft Teams. So it's pretty cool. Go in to get your app data and put it inside Teams. And that way people aren't going back and forth between Teams and all the different apps that you guys use within your organization. So very, very cool that you guys can add those apps and kind of collaborate still in Teams using those apps, which is great. In my deck, if you guys email me, I'll send you the deck. I have also some links here where you guys can go out and see what's new in Teams and how that's improved with Office. There's actually a link here that will take you to new features. We have another link on like deeper diving training for Microsoft Teams. If you go out to Microsoft Learn, Microsoft's actually built a really nice website called Microsoft Learn. And within Microsoft Learn, you can actually go out and do free on-demand training videos through Microsoft, and they do that through Learn. And you can actually, learn new products like Teams on your own time, totally free. It's got user guides and step-by-step videos. It's really, really nice. And then Microsoft also has some quick start guides that you can actually download, and you can use those within your organization. Very similar to these kind of screenshots, where you can actually save these with your team and say, here's how to do this, here's how to do this, here's how to do this. That's all through their quick start guides. So I do recommend, checking out their links, checking out all the different features. I will say the thing about Teams, it's constantly changing. Everything in the Microsoft stack, we can't even keep up with the pace of how fast Microsoft's developing. So it's good to keep in touch or like subscribe to the Microsoft feed so you can see what's new in Teams, what's coming, because it's easy to miss a new feature. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a new feature. That's cool. They actually just added a new feature where you can actually hide the video of yourself. Like if you're sick of seeing yourself on video, you can actually hide yourself so you don't have to see yourself on the Microsoft team. So it's pretty nice. They've got a lot of different Teams, new features that they're adding. So I told you I would give you some ideas of how you can use Teams across your organization, right? You're like, okay, well, I can use Teams for meetings. I can chat with coworkers. I can obviously create up a file structure and spin up a new team and share documents there. But it's kind of cool to get some ideas of what you can do outside the box and how people are actually using Teams within organizations, so that you can say, okay, how do I take this back to my coworkers, or how do I use this or leverage it in my business and use it for an organization? So here's things that we can do, like Teams for projects. That's what I was just talking about. My team, we always use Teams for projects. We use it for our project plans. We're obviously uploading all project documents to the team. So anything that's a source of truth for the project gets thrown into that team. And that's where we view all the project documents. We use it for project chat. So if we need to chat with other team members on that project, we can chat within the conversation itself. And for us, we use Microsoft Project, we use Smartsheet, Monday.com. We have a lot of different project tools we use. We actually link those through the apps and put those as tabs at the top too, so that we're linking everything back into one central area. This is probably our favorite part when we're using this for projects. We can share with external users, so we can add members that are external users and share the team with them. So we have a lot of clients we're working with. They need to see documents. They need to upload documents. Well, we share the team with them, and then they can just upload all their documents. If they want to see if we have a copy of something, they can go into the folders and see it. We can upload all our training manuals there. There's a lot of cool stuff we can do with sharing that externally. Teams for HR. This is just an idea. You can actually put teams out there for your HR team, where you guys can put file retention, you can put interviews, scorecards, employee correspondence, things that HR teams are keeping up with. All of that can be put out there. Of course, that team can be secure because you only have certain members looking at it. But this is where, the whole HR team can be putting all of their document retention. And again, seeing it up in SharePoint or seeing it in Teams, but within Teams, that HR team can collaborate and keep that secure. Another idea, customer service teams. So customer service teams need a lot of different data to manage and service customers. So we've seen customers create customer service teams where they've got customers, they've got contact lists, they've got lists of orders, lists of inventory items. Maybe they put all their contracts in the files and their work orders and their sales orders, they're bringing those in as lists as well, so that when the customer service team is in that team, they can see all the data related to their job and they can do their job a lot more efficient, having it all in one central location. So you can make a team just for your customer service folks who are going out there and working on customer service. Same thing for procurement, buyers who are out there placing purchase orders and working with vendors. Here's a whole bunch of ideas of things that you could put into a team to make their lives a lot easier. And if your vendor list is up in a cloud product like Dynamics or any of the other competing ERP systems, you can actually just do that, add a website link at the top of your tab, grab that vendor list and stick it right there in the team, and they've got everything they need right there in their team on top with those tabs. It's pretty cool. All right, last but not least, apps and licensing. So we talked about apps. Almost all of these apps have some kind of interface with Teams now. So just keep in mind, Microsoft, we call it One Microsoft World now because everything in the cloud, Microsoft is trying to make it work interrelation, and Teams is a huge factor in that. So they're trying to connect Teams into pretty much everything. You've got Teams in your calendar, Teams in your Outlook. Obviously, you saw we can share documents, and all of those have Teams capabilities. We've got Teams within Power Apps and Power Automate, where we can create apps based on Teams or apps for Teams. We can also create automation with Teams, like bots and automation around customer service. So there's a lot of different options out there in the Microsoft stack alone of what's available with Teams. The Dynamics stack, Dynamics 365, that's Microsoft's stack of business applications and where I primarily work. Tons of integrations out there. We do Business Central, which is their ERP system, their biggest ERP system. That one has full Teams capabilities where you can share records in Teams, but all these other apps that you're seeing out here, if you own any of them or thinking about using them, all have Teams capabilities. And just to keep in mind, within the Dynamics and Teams ecosystem, there's some huge names that are adopting Teams, that are adopting Dynamics, Power Apps out there that are becoming Microsoft shops. And you guys probably recognize some of these names. So if you're ever curious, like who's using these products, some very big companies that are out there automating their processes through Teams, through Dynamics, and through the Power Platform. And then, like I said, explore other apps in your Teams. You probably are using some of these apps and you just don't realize that they're in Teams. So it's always fun to go out there and say, hey, is this app I use out there? Or maybe I'm looking for an app for development or customer service or case management. I can go out there and search and see if maybe there's an app I never heard of and I want to try to use it and connect it to my team. And then as far as licensing goes, I won't read through all this, but most of the Microsoft licensing now includes Teams, just depending on your license SKU. And you can see that down here on what's actually included with those SKUs. For the SMB business plans, so small to medium business, these are plans that are available to those users, and most of them have Teams, and you can see the pricing there. And then for enterprise users, so big companies, Teams is included in all the enterprise plans, and the E5 licenses, which is the highest price license, that one actually includes the free audio conferencing and phone plan. So that would be the difference between those. And then I think I mentioned there is now Teams for personal use. So you can actually go out there, and if you want to use it for like collaboration with your kids or your external people that you work with, you actually can download your own version of personal Teams and collaborate outside of there as well, which is pretty nice. It doesn't have all the enterprise features, but it has some chat capabilities where you can chat with your family and former coworkers. So it's pretty nice as well. So I know that's a lot to digest. We don't have a ton of time to go through every single little thing in Team, but a kind of an overview of things you can do with it. Does anyone have any questions about Teams and what you can do?
I was just going to ask, I'm not sure why I'm echoing, but I was just going to ask a couple of questions. They're pretty simple. I'm going to go through the training and look at for some. I moved some of my questions down into that. Go see it for yourself. You mentioned the new teams templates, when you get ready to create a team and then there's some templates. Do you know if you can actually create a template?
You can.
And then save it out there so someone else in the organization doesn't have to go through that same process?
Yes.
Okay, so that was one question.
Yeah, you can create a template, and that's really popular with organizations. They're creating templates that say, here's our tabs we're going to have, here's our folder structure, here's how we want it to look, and the members, and then you can copy it over, which is really nice.
And then the last one, I know you said I don't use, we have all of this, but I haven't used OneDrive much yet, although they moved all of our on-premise stuff to OneDrive. When documents are synced back to OneDrive, do they stay connected? So like if I make a change with it in OneDrive, it'll go back into the Teams. So from that standpoint, okay.
Yeah, they
only
do.
two questions
If you
I
see
had.
here this little sync button here on top of the file structure, that's actually what syncs it back into your OneDrive. And as long as you keep logged into OneDrive and OneDrive doesn't have any errors, it will sync everything through. You'll actually see it running in your little taskbar down here. I don't have it on mine, but you actually will sync it to your desktop, and then every change you make, it will sync back. That's a great question. Yep.
Okay.
Great question. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, here's my contact information. You guys have any questions, feel free to reach out and email me. I appreciate everyone for attending. It was a fun session to talk about, and thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for hosting. We so appreciate you, Shannon, and thank you all for coming out today. And I hope you get outside and enjoy the sunshine. It looks beautiful out there. Have a good weekend.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Shannon.
Bye.